Greetings again, fans, and welcome to the show. An intriguing day of cricket in the World Test Championship final. When David Bedingham played two scrumptious drives at the end, you would think South Africa is on top. But this day started off with Australia batting first, losing a couple of early wickets, and they made 212 with Webster getting a brilliant 72. Steve Smith was his usual fidgety and self, but that was a brilliant 66 from Steve Smith. Kagiso Rabada from a drug ban came back and got his name on the honors board, taking 5 wickets. They lead by 169 runs as South Africa have struggled, Samir, to 43 for 4. Today I have with me Malik, and we will break down today's first day of the test match, World Test Championship Finals between Australia and South Africa. Malik, how you doing?
Good man. Welcome to the World Test Championship of Cricket. That's what it's all about. Hey, listen, if I'm a bowling coach of any team, I'm calling my drug dealer. Most important thing this morning. Listen, cocaine does well for bowlers, man. That's what it does. 5 wickets for 51. Every bowler in the world wants that.
In all fairness, Samir, Kagiso Rabada is one of the best fast bowlers in the world, and
Yes,
this
he
was
is.
not an unexpected performance from Kagiso Rabada. But Samir, the day started with Australia. They were sent into bat first, as we discussed yesterday. Marnus Labuschagne opened the batting, along with Usman Khawaja. They were in early trouble. That was some really good seam bowling from the South African team.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, listen, Rabada and Jansen both opened the bowling for South Africa, and they did a wonderful job. They were swinging the ball, conditions suited them. And hey, listen, once again, I know Australia is the favorites, and at the end of the day, it looks like Australia is way ahead right now in this game. I'm not saying that South Africa is way behind because it's still tomorrow morning is going to decide that. But I'm going to be honest, the way Steve Smith batted today, okay, and especially capitalized on any loose deliveries. If you look at his, batting chart today, you'll see any ball outside the off stump was going for a four. That's what he did today. And I think he's the real reason why Australia is in the game ahead right now. Yes, Webster played an excellent 72 of 92, an excellent knock in conditions. But by then, the ball was a little bit older. What Steve Smith did in the beginning of this innings when he came into bat at 16 for 2 after 7 overs, that was the big deal that I think got Australia up to 212.
I mean, Samir, Steve Smith made it seem as if he was batting on a completely different surface from everyone else. Everything was
Exactly.
hitting the middle of Steve Smith's bat.
Absolutely. And hey, listen, if he doesn't get out there, I think he's getting a big 100 today. Aiden Markham gets that, nick, and then, Jansen bobbles it and eventually gets that catch, right? If I was Steve Smith, I would be like, hey, listen, 9 out of 10 times that catch is dropped. For some reason, Jansen somehow just grabbed onto that ball. And, it was a lucky break for South Africa, man. 146 for 4 there. I think Steve Smith, if he would have batted the whole day, he would have run up the score.
Oh yeah, for sure. When Travis Head was dismissed, that was a big point in the game. And as you mentioned, Bo Webster, wicket keeper Alex Carey, they also played really good
Yep. And
hands
and
for
at a
Australia.
high strike rate, right? High strike rate. Listen, Travis Head, we know he plays at a high strike rate. He got out, but then Bo Webster, 72 of 92. Alex Carey, 23 of 31. These are crucial runs.
Hmm.
Considering that, in the beginning, if you look at how Usman Khwaja played, I think Usman Khwaja today looked out of sorts. But, once again, the ball was swinging, but he couldn't even get off the mark for 19 balls, and then he finally got out. And then, same thing with Marnus, who obviously was opening for the first time. I do believe that that's not his position, but he's opening. 17 of 56, he struggled, and then Cameron Green, he was a walking wicket at one down. He had that first ball four, and then boom, Rabada gets him out immediately, right? So it was an easy wicket there. So it looks like both the teams, really want to give the game away, right? Once again, Usman Khwaja is opening with Marnus, and then Cameron Green is coming one down. Those could potentially be early wickets for South Africa in this game, and that's what happened. And then, the same thing with South Africa. I think the bowling was tremendous today by the South Africans, but then Australians just took it to another level, right? Mitchell Starc, 7 overs for 10 runs, 2 wickets. Hazelwood, 7 overs for 10 runs, a wicket. Pat
Mhm.
Cummins, 7 overs for 14 runs, a wicket. These guys are not even giving anything away. So I think this was tremendous here, Roger. I think Roger, your mic went off again. Yep, you back on now?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So anyway, so what I was
So,
saying was that
talk to me about the toss, Samir. The toss. At the start of the day, South Africa won a toss, and everyone said that was a mistake. Normally, Australia always says, you win the toss and you think about batting once, and you think about it again, but you always bat. They essentially put Australia in. Was that a mistake?
no, absolutely not. The conditions were perfect. The conditions were perfect for bowling. It was in South Africa's favor. They did very well. Hey, listen, once again, you need a genius like Steve Smith to basically counter what the South African bowlers were doing, right? Once
Mhm.
again, I'm trying to tell you right now again, I think Bo Webster played very well. But the way Steve Smith played is the reason why Australia is in the game. And you saw what happened in the later half of the day, right? At the end of the day, when South Africa was batting, they're in deep trouble right now because Cummins, Starc, and Hazelwood are not giving anything away at this point.
Yeah.
South African bowlers still gave a few loose deliveries, right? Guess what? These guys have not even given one loose delivery till now.
Yeah. Um, Steve Smith, Samir, he's just been a consummate performer at Lords. He has scores of 215 in 2015, um, 58 2015, 92 2019, 34 in 2023, 110 2023, and then today. I mean, this guy has owned Lords.
Hey, listen, if Joe Root was not in the equation, Steve Smith is probably the best batsman of this generation, right? That's what it is. Hey, listen, the amount of runs he's scored over the last, 10 plus years, and he keeps on scoring runs, right? And once again, hey, listen, we're talking about retirements all day long, right? Yesterday, the day before, the last week, 2 weeks, everybody's retiring. I hope that Steve Smith doesn't decide that, if they win this championship, he's like, I just want to walk away. Because that would be a huge loss to Australia and the cricketing world. This guy can continue playing, I think, for another 2 to 3 years at a minimum at this point.
He actually has the most runs by an overseas batter at Lords with
Yes.
591 at an average of 60. So
But
brilliant stuff there.
listen, he averages 57 in Test cricket, and once again in 116 tests, he has 10,000 plus runs. He's done extremely well, and I hope that he just continues.
Kagiso Rabada went past Alan Donald for the most test wickets, set fourth most test wickets for South Africa. Dale Steyn leads the pack with 439. Sean Pollock at 421. Makaya Intini at 390. I mean, today Kagiso Rabada was just brilliant. How good is he, Samir?
He's unbelievable. Hey, listen, I was just joking about the cocaine stuff. It's unfortunate it happened. But the truth is, the guy is one of the best ballers that South Africa has ever produced. And I think if Dale Steyn, once again, wasn't in the equation, I would call Rabada the best South African baller ever. Okay, remember he averages 21.82. He has 332 wickets in 71 tests, and he's still, I think, kicking, and I think he's going to keep going. I think eventually there's a very good chance that he's potentially the highest wicket taker for South Africa in Test cricket if he keeps going this way.
Yeah. Talk about the approach of the South African batsmen. Hopefully, obviously, Australia made 212, and we were talking at that time, and we had said 212 is not a bad score on this wicket, especially with the Australian bowling attack. Yes, South Africa has a decent batting lineup, but with the experience of Starc, Hazelwood, and Cummins, Australia were always in the contest. Now, the approach of the South African batsmen, Samir, we saw where Mulder at one point was one run off 30 odd deliveries. He ended up with, I believe, 46 or 44, and we saw where Bavuma is still at the end, 3 runs of 37 delivers. Is this the right approach?
Stage fright, man. Stage fright. That's what it is. This is the, biggest stage. You ran the best and the most historic cricket ground in
Mm.
Lords, and you're playing the WTC final. This batting lineup looks nothing like the lineup for the last 2 years when South Africa pretty much was undefeated going into this test match, right? This finals. I think I was very, very disappointed. Aiden Markham got out early. It was a great peach of a ball by Starc. It happens. And listen, with
Right.
a new ball, it can happen. Starc has taken 19 wickets in the first over of a test match. That's how unbelievable Starc is. He always does this, right? And then I think Ryan Rickelton had a great approach. He kept scoring runs, but then Mulder, Bavuma, and Stubbs very, very disappointing. And at the end, obviously, Bedingham, was one of seven, and then he's had two boundaries, right? So let's see how
Mhm.
Bedingham starts tomorrow morning. He's a very, very good cricketer, but hey, listen, he's going to have to step up and score some runs along with Captain Bavuma because hey, listen, Bawuma's approach is terrible at this point. 3 of 37. I think he should have been a little bit more aggressive here. It wasn't as if Australia was playing a split field, right? They had three slips, and they have everybody in the gully. It's an open ground. You got to be a little bit aggressive. Change the length of the baller right here. You can't be 43 or 4 wickets and with 22 overs. That's just not a good scenario.
A scoring rate, Samir, of 1.95, Australia would have been very happy with that. They're happy to just continue to plug away, do their thing, and the South African batsmen, not doing anything. Conversely, Australia scored at a rate. Although they were losing wickets, their scoring rate was almost 4.
Yeah, yeah.
They
Hey,
scored at
listen, Australia,
three point
Australia
seven four.
looked, Australia looks the part. They're
Mm-hmm.
championship squad. They're defending champions, and I think they're gonna squeeze South Africa here. South Africa will require some significant performances tomorrow morning to stay in this game.
212 looks a long way away, Samir. 43 for 4. What can South Africa do to get back in this game? Because at this point, Samir, in my opinion, they're way behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's going to require a partnership, and these two are very capable of that. Bahuma's had a very good, WTC cycle. Bedingham, he's a new, South African player, but he has
Mhm.
enough experience. He's been playing for a while. I think both of these will have to be a little bit aggressive. I'm not saying to play aggressively. This is not T20 cricket. You can't
Right.
play aggressively against the attack that these guys have. Stark,
Unless
Hazelwood,
your
Cummins
team
are
is
not going to give anything away.
coached by Brendan McCollum.
Yeah, that's a different story altogether, right? But what they'll have to do is remember this is a good pitch for cricket, right? That's what it is. It's a good pitch. Nobody
Mhm.
can say that this is a batting wicket or a bowling wicket. I think this is a good pitch for playing cricket. Steve Smith showed that. Bio Webster showed that, right? Now what they got to do is they got to go in tomorrow morning, fresh start, and I think they got to put the pressure back on the Australian bowlers. And if they can get up to 150 to 180, which obviously is far away right now, but if they can get up to 150, 180, concede a lead of 20, 30 runs, 40 runs, it's not a big deal. I think they're back in the game at that point.
Mulder is a good player, but you mentioned that he looked way out of his depth batting at
Yeah.
number 3.
Very, very disappointing. But once again, hey, listen, Australia did the same thing with Cameron Green. I think both the teams are giving each other, space here. They're like, all right, hey, listen, we'll give you Mulder at 3, you give us Green at 3, and we'll call it evens, right? That's what it is. Hey, listen, both these guys should not be batting at 3 in any cricketing team, not just Australia and South Africa.
But I
I
mean,
am surprised. Hey, listen,
you
it's overconfidence, right? That's what it
right.
is. From both sides, they think that they're overconfident going into this, and they think that they can redo everything. And Australia's gone one even further, right? Not only are they batting Green at number 3 for the first time, they're opening with Marnus at number 1, right? What the hell makes sense here? It doesn't make sense.
I don't know, but I think Marnus is in trouble. His test career is at a bit of a crossroads,
Yeah.
and
Hey,
he
listen, once
really has to
again,
score runs in the next couple of
listen,
innings.
listen. The guy still averages 47.
Hmm.
You are forcing him out of Test cricket for no reason, right? All you got to do is bat him at his regular position. Why does this guy's 31 years old? He's still got a good 5 to 7 years left, I think, in his career here. And I think what they'll have to do is they'll have to go back. I think when they go to West Indies, there's no way Australia can open with him. And there's no way Green can be batting at number three. Bring
Here,
Marnus
here,
at number three and open with somebody else.
here's a problem, Samir. Australia is sweet on Cameron Green. They think he's the next big superstar,
He
and
probably is.
and as a result, they have to find a way to get him into the team. Bo Webster has done well, so they don't want to drop or
I
leave
know,
out Bo
but
Webster.
hey, listen, I'm
So
gonna
that's the
tell you
problem.
something. I'm gonna tell you
And
something
and
right
Cam
now.
Green is normally the all rounder who bats at six. Of course, they don't really want him to bat at six because they believe he has the potential to be a main guy in this attack, batting at three or four.
Listen, to be honest, Green should be batting at number six. And maybe in West Indies, what they'll do is they'll bat Green at five, Webster at six, and bring Travis Head in as an opener and put Marnus at one down. That would be a better solution, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And maybe even in the second innings of this game, they might switch it around again. Listen, looking at the conditions, Travis Head as an opener is not a bad choice either.
yeah, but I don't necessarily think Travis Head wants to open unless he's in Asian conditions.
But in West Indies, he can open. So
Hmm.
maybe after this test match, but hey, listen, I'd rather win the game than perform in West Indies, right? This is the match that Australia wants to win. Hey, listen, they want to win in West Indies too. Don't get me wrong. This team always wants to win, but I think they want to win in West Indies and in the World Test Championship, right? They don't want to do both. But if they had to choose one, which one would they choose? Of course, the World Test Championship finals.
Of course. What does Australia need to do tomorrow morning in the first session?
Hey, squeeze as they just squeeze. And I think Pat Cummins is going to do that. He's going to squeeze South Africa tomorrow morning. South Africa will need a tremendous knock from their captain and Bedingham just to stay in the game.
Yeah. All right. I mean, exciting first day of the World Test
Unbelievable.
Championship. This doesn't look like a game that's going to go 5 days, Samir.
No, it won't. No, it won't. Hey, listen, these are
Typical of
two
Test cricket
great.
over the last couple of years.
Listen, these are two great squads,
Yeah.
but not only two great squads, these are two great squads that have given each other breaks here. That's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. I think Marnus and Green on one side, Mulder on the other side. They're giving each of them breaks, and I'm pretty sure after what management saw this morning and this afternoon, Australia and South Africa are going to make adjustments in the second innings. Don't be surprised. Head opening in the second innings.
Wow. That's a big call. I mean, it would be a big call to make that sort of shift midway through a test match.
Hey,
Normally
listen,
that's.
if you want to win a championship, you have to do that.
Hmm.
Just
All right.
imagine, just imagine if Australia is leading by 60 runs, let's say tomorrow at some point. They
Mhm.
do not make the adjustment, and Marnus and Green are out early, and Smith somehow gets unlucky and gets out, and South Africa is back in the game chasing 150, 160 on day three. Guess who's winning? South Africa is winning that.
Right. All day.
Right now, the pressure is a 5 day game pressure for South Africa, right? South Africa's gotten concerned with day two, three, and four. But once the game gets squeezed and we get into, a one inning scenario, all these players are extremely talented. And there's no way Australia will want to be in a position where they have to defend 150, 200 at the end of the game. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see what happens on day two. Expecting the conditions to be better for batting tomorrow.
I agree. I agree. The
Yeah.
conditions will ease out. I think South Africa has a chance, and I think the approach today was negative by South
Mm.
African batsmen. They'll go back, and I think tomorrow they'll play a little bit better. I think so.
All right. The opening day of the WTC final, a day dominated by Steve Smith, Bo Webster, and Kagiso Rabada, snagging 5 wickets and getting on the Lord's honors board. We will be back tomorrow, Samir and I, as we break down day two of the WTC final. See you then.
Take care.